What kind of relationship do I want to have with the people? And I think also that quality of the organization depends on the quality of the relationships that we have. And the quality of the relationships will depend on the art of the conversations that we have. Organizational leadership is knowing people, reading them, knowing where they're coming from, where their enthusiasms are, and how you stimulate them intellectually, right? Whereas transactional leadership is you clean this, you put that. Either you do it correctly and you're being praised, or you do it wrong and you're being slapped on the head.
Thank you for coming onto the show.
My pleasure.
Today. We don't have an official start point. We just go chatting casually, however it goes. But no, it was nice that you accepted and you wanted to give. I know you said you wanted to get to a stage where your life you wanted to give back, provide value in your knowledge, and I was like, that's very nice of you. I wanted to start with, I also did a bit of research with you. Your sister and your family upbringing was a curious one because your sister's in a great position herself with the World Health Organization.
Yes.
And I was like, okay, that'd be an interesting how you both started and what you wanted to achieve when you were young. I know you had a story where your father told you one thing and
yeah, you did your research. That's good.
No, I did. I did also found it's funny to break the ice. One of your tweets because you have Twitter, but like from a long time ago, and because don't get scared. There's nothing crazy, but I know when you work, like when you're in the work setting, it's serious. Like you have to work. You walk past someone, like you say, Sally forgets how are you, but it's never like a deep connection. You don't really get to know someone unless you sit down with them. And I know you have a good sense of humor because one of the tweets was, had a great dinner with family and friends. It was really great. The neighbor was complaining about the noise. And then you said, ... poor her, ... And I laughed. I was in tears because that's like that sarcastic humor that I grew up with. And it was like very funny and very typical of Switzerland because everyone complains about the noise here when you have a good time. So no, it was good to see that little sense of humour side of you. But you grew up in Brunnen.
Yeah, in central Switzerland.
It's near Lake Lucerne.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I was born in Zug. Grew up there. Went to boarding school, and then my sister and I went to Belgium boarding school.
Okay.
And then we studied. She studied pharmacy and law, and then I studied dentistry, and then somehow changed my directions towards hospitality. And she went to work for the Red Cross first. Has always been in hardship destinations, right? So she worked in Sudan, in Guinea, in Rwanda, in Egypt, and Sri Lanka, all those places that are not the most comfortable, and especially tormented by war. And her little brother was always in the 5-star hotels. So the difference couldn't be bigger. She worked in destinations that were very, very difficult. And I was working always in the nice places, right? In 5-star hotels. And I loved it.
Yeah.
And of course, she always says, you have always the funny stories. And I say, well, you always have the serious stuff, right? Which I cannot fathom, actually.
Yeah. It's really the courageous work.
Yeah.
If you're on the front line.
The funny thing is, we went to a birthday celebration of a mutual friend a few years ago in Lausanne, and every participant or every guest received a little note, a little post-it note with an attribute that reminded that person of us, right? And so she had World Savior, and I had Mr. Everything.
Mr.
So whatever you want, you can go. I guess.
Yeah, that's a really good idea, actually. For like a party, it was like a party, and then the guests sent that.
Yeah, and everybody got a post-it note, and we got those.
Yeah, that's really thoughtful.
Yeah,
that's good. That's good to know for later. So then you went to boarding school in Belgium, and then you finished your school.
Yeah.
Your father said, well, your father would be happy with your sister.
Yes.
But then with you wanting to be from dentistry to hotelier.
He accepted. Yeah, but there were three conditions. One was that I had to have a job before graduation, that I had to graduate best of the class, and that I'd be happy. And I had to put that in writing.
Yeah.
And
as a
every
contract.
year he asked me, and are you still happy?
Yeah.
And I always said yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Otherwise, I would have to go back to
To
dentistry.
dentistry, yeah. What did your father do for
He was an
Okay.
electrical engineer.
electrical engineer? Yeah, okay. So it's that generation that they promote study from their kids. Like,
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Study has always been a big thing in the family. And he
Yeah.
always said, you know, he was a first generation immigrant to Switzerland, from Belgium.
Yeah.
And he always said, whatever you have in your brain, nobody can take from you. Right.
Yeah.
And somehow that got encrusted in our DNA. I don't know why. My sister, she did her master's in public health, and she did a doctorate in bioethics, and she pursued law and did a master's in humanitarian law. So it's crazy what she did.
That's a really good quote.
Oh yeah.
I saw a similar quote with someone that's like, what's the difference between, there's no difference between a blind man and someone that doesn't read. Because the blind man can't read, but if you are eligible but you can't read, you're learning the same. You're not learning anything. You can't read. And I was like, it's true. Like the information you can take and absorb and what you learn is really valuable. Yeah.
That's nice. Yeah.
Yeah. I was near you in Brunnen last week in, I don't know, you said Vegas? I tried
Vegas,
it.
yeah.
Vegas, yeah. I said it to my cousin, but he thought I was saying Vegas. My pronunciation for Swiss towns is still... And that part of the world is beautiful, like Brunnen, that whole Lake Lucerne area. It's a special place to grow up, for sure.
Vegas is something else. It's where you get married in an hour.
That's where you get married in an hour. Okay.
Vegas.
Yeah, Vegas is a lot of regrets after the night out, but yeah, it's a polar opposites. But so you went to America was the start?
Yeah. Well,
or
kind of. It was the first real job. Before that, it was always internships. That was in London or in Brussels. But Chicago was the first real job as a guest service agent with the Hilton Hotel. And that was actually quite... it was a good investment in the career. Right? It was an 1,800 bedroom hotel. That's where you really learn how to work fast and being efficient, and also having standards, right? So that helped a lot when I came back to Switzerland, and it probably helped me to get into the GM position quite fast.
Okay, that was one interesting, because you would have graduated hotelier school, so with all the people that you worked with, everyone's at their different stages of their life. I'm not going to assume not all of them become GMs or general managers,
or don't want to.
Yeah. So it's like, it's interesting to see what made you want to be a GM, or how did you think you become that? Like,
it was quite serendipitous, right? Sometimes you have to be at the right place in the right time, and that was the case when I was 27. I became a GM of a small property, and I turned it around, and then became GM of a bigger property, and then I left that company and went to Asia to work for Shangri-La. And there again, I was the youngest resident manager of a big hotel. It was 700 rooms, 1,500 employees. So that was quite impressive.
Yeah.
1,500
employees. How do you manage that? 'Cause, like, this hotel is a beautiful, amazing hotel, but the numbers are they're not comparable to the numbers you have over there.
No, but you manage only a few people, right?
Yeah.
But you need to make sure that they manage their reports well.
Yeah.
And on top of that, it was in Jakarta, so I'm sure that you're familiar with Indonesia, coming from Australia.
Yeah,
it's a beautiful culture, right? I think they were very hospitable, very warm-hearted. But for a European, right, when you say, do this, right, and you expect them to do that
at this time,
you need to get a little,
that would have been a wake-up call for you, because in Switzerland, and I was saying when my cousins come up, like my parents come, my sister comes, 10:01, the tram's there. Like, it functions just... I love that. It just functions. You can plan your day and there's not going to be delays. Like, it's just working like clockwork.
Yeah.
So when you go to Indonesia and you're thinking, okay, this is a shock. This has been a shock to the system.
Yeah. You always hear can do.
Yeah.
Yes, of course you can do.
It's just when.
Yeah.
Okay, so to me that seems like traveling around in different countries and hotels broadened your resume, broadened your experience. So when you decide to come back to Switzerland, someone's looking at you with your varied experiences.
It was in 2011, actually, when I was asked to take over the Omnia Mountain Lodge in Zermatt, and the idea was to bring a little bit of Asian hospitality to the mountains, and that worked quite well. And the hotel is still doing fabulously. I think even better than ever before. So it's a wonderful property and superb owners, and they're very happy to have been part of that.
Did they approach you, or how? Yeah, they approached you. Yeah. Just a phone call while you were in Indonesia. Like, I like to see how like these things work. Like, did you know someone?
It was actually in Penang. So from Indonesia, I went to Penang again with Shangri-La, and I was sitting in the office there, and I got the call from a lady, and she said, "Well, would you be keen to look at the Omnia?" And then I came on it. I remember it was a Sunday evening. The interview was on a Monday. Got the offer in the afternoon. So I went back to Penang.
Yeah.
With a signed document.
Done. And then it was pretty. It was a gateway for you to come back home to Switzerland. Yeah. Yeah,
there was actually no choice, right? It would have been foolish not to accept it, because the Omnia was, it's an icon.
Yeah, it was a beautiful hotel. Looking it up, absolutely beautiful. So yeah, for sure, it's a no-brainer. You'd take that, and then you're closer to. Do your parents still live in Switzerland? Or?
My mother passed away when I was 12, and my father, he was. No, actually, he was with my sister. He was the nanny of my niece and nephew.
Okay.
But I don't remember where they were. I think they were in Rwanda. I don't remember. It changed all the time.
Yeah.
So no, I was alone then.
Okay. That actually would have been tough, losing your mum at 12. Like, that's a hardship. That would have been tough.
Makes you grow up fast.
I was gonna say, you would have had to. I know as a man, like, so if that ever happened to me, touch wood, never does, but like, you just assume responsibility of, like, you look after your sister, like, it's a big.
Or she looked after me, I don't know. It was mutual.
Yeah, you're in the relaxed 5-star hotel, she's in the trenches. Okay, no, so it's.
But every moment in life has gives its lessons. So a moment like this, of course, you don't realize if you don't zoom out, but you zoom out only afterwards, and you see what it brought to you, right, and what you learned.
Yeah.
And that's how it is.
That, you reckon that moment, you're only 12, so young, but it shaped you or changed you for sure. Yeah. Yeah, okay. I like to think of there's always positives in some situation. I know there's a really good book, Man's Search for Meaning. So it was like an Auschwitz survivor. I'll send it. I'll give you a copy. It was like, so he was in the trenches. He was in Auschwitz. He was going to be sentenced to death. Obviously, he was one of the Jewish. But he managed to escape. But in the book, he was saying that, like, in such hardship and such despair, you still have the choice of how you think and how you feel, and how you can still think of a positive aspect in this life. And this is like one of the worst cases in history of genocide. And it was such that book really changed how I thought about positivity and mindset, because it was like, he's about to get executed. He doesn't know when he's going to die, but he was still thinking positive, still having jokes, still having fun while being tortured in the trenches. So I guess, like, any situation that you come across, like, I still try and think of it as positive.
Did you find that in that moment, or only later on?
No, I think not just in that moment. I think I've always had a more skewed to positive outlook. I think growing up, there was some instances where I was always surrounded by, like, just negative talk.
Mm-hmm.
And you either go down that path or you go the complete opposite. And I went the complete opposite.
I know that.
Yeah, so I just think that there's just no point being negative. Like, there's always positive. Like, there's obviously, you don't want to be delusional. There's going to be situations where, okay, that's shit. Like that. Okay, this is a disaster. But there's just, like, you always get a choice how you react to situations. So I've always been on the half glass full positive side, because it'd just be depressing living.
There's always also a nice quote by Will Guidara who says, adversity is a terrible thing to waste.
Yeah, it's true.
You know, sometimes you have a difficult situation or a tricky situation, and you have to make the most out of it, not just to compensate the bad things, right?
Yeah.
Or to fix things, but also to learn from them.
Yeah. That's really good. I believe that, because there's this study that this brain doctor did, Dr. Amen, and it's like a post-traumatic growth. So there's there's going to be a time in your life, like your mother passed away, a family member passed away, and it's going to be a terrible time in your life. So you're going to have to grieve and go through that. But then there's an opportunity that you come out of it better than you left it. And he shows there's a graph where you go down and you're in the real slumps dealing with grief, and then you get this chance and opportunity to actually recover better than you were before.
Yeah.
And I was like, I think about that as well in terms of adversity. And I think makes life interesting, the challenges.
Yeah.
It's not mundane, it's not boring. So
yeah, it's like when you say, well, it doesn't kill you, makes you stronger.
Yeah, exactly. So it's I was thinking, I looked at your articles, I read all your articles for Forbes. I like them a lot. I like that you're interested in neuroplasticity, self-awareness. But firstly, how did you start to become a Forbes editor? Was that when you were at the Carlton in St. Moritz, or?
That was, during my time at the Carlton, and afterwards. I was invited to speak at a conference in Frankfurt about workplace transformation.
I saw that, yeah.
And my theory was that you can change an organizational culture through transformational leadership, right?
Okay.
I tweaked that a bit. You can change an organizational culture, one with patience, right? And then when you know when to use transactional and when more transformational leadership.
Okay.
So either you manage or you lead. Right, you manage for compliance and you lead for commitment, right? And I think it's the art is when you use what, right? When you identify with whom and in which situation, what kind of leadership you have to use, and bit by bit, team by team, and person by person, you can change an organization. And sometimes it takes a little time, but it's always a very fascinating journey.
Okay. When you mean transactional leadership and then by leading.
Yeah.
The leading is you're doing by example, and what's the what's the difference?
Transformational leadership is when you know the person, right? Okay. I know you're from Australia, you do this, right?
Yeah.
You're not a hotelier by vocation or by training, but right? So I know your background. So that is one part of the transformational leadership, is knowing people, reading them, knowing where they're coming from, where their enthusiasms are, etc., and where their vision takes them, and how you stimulate them intellectually.
Okay.
Right. So that is when you go into the transformation and while being a charismatic leader. Right. Whereas transactional leadership is you clean this, you put that. Either you do it correctly and you're being praised, or you do it wrong and you're being slapped on the head.
Yeah.
Right?
Okay.
That is more the contingent aspect, right? And so, just to come back to your initial question, I gave that talk, and then afterwards I was invited to write for Forbes. And if you invited to get admitted to back then it was the HR Council, right? Forbes HR Council. And then I was writing a few columns, and they got published, and that is very nice when you get published.
Don't say no to that, do you? That offer.
No. And of course that also stimulated me. Right?
Yeah,
it's just to read things and to do my research, and then you say, okay, well, how can this in, let's say, 1,000-word document contribute, right? And when your document is being shared, then of course you have been a multiplier.
No, yeah. That's because you've done a lot of extra studies. University of Liverpool. You did were they all online, or did you sometimes?
Most of them. Yeah. Most of them. So after the bachelor's degree, I did an MBA in Lyon. That was interesting. But I thought everything is programmed, right? That's what you learn, and then you learn this, and then you learn that.
Yeah.
But I thought it was more interesting to see, okay, where does this take you from there? What else is there?
Yeah. Okay.
Right? And doing research and seeing, okay, well, I want to learn more about strategy. I want to learn more about neuroplasticity.
Yes,
right?
yeah.
So at MIT it was a course on neurobusiness and on neuroscience for business.
Amazing, yeah.
And I was just thrilled to see how the awareness of neuroscience can influence your success in business, because you know how to talk to people, you know how their brains are wired, right?
Yeah.
If we have this interaction now, I know that your prefrontal cortex is in overdrive.
Correct. Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
Right, so we are in a creative moment. We are in a trusting moment. You are listening what I'm saying. I'm looking at your body language, and I'm in a trusting relationship.
Yeah.
Whereas if I said, do this or do that, or why have you done this, you would stimulate another part of your brain, and I would know that you would be then hit by cortisol. Right?
Yeah, hit by cortisol. Yeah.
And for me, it's just interesting to see, or to think about, what area of your brain do I want to stimulate with this kind of conversation?
Yeah, okay. Yeah.
Right? What's the outcome?
Yeah.
What kind of relationship do I want to have with the people? And I think also that the quality of the organization depends on the quality of the relationships that we have. And the quality of the relationships will depend on the art of the conversations that we have.
Yeah, that's true. The quality of the conversations you have and the type of people. You can have different conversations with different people.
Yes.
How you feel, for sure.
And in different situations.
And different environments as well. I think it's credit to you. It's hard as a general manager when you are in the workplace, because you're the main guy from the hotel. So when there's other workers, it's hard for them. I think it would be hard for them to open up, because they're worried about what they might say or might think, and it's hard to get that personal level connection, which I think, as you said, builds over time. It takes time. So I guess before we even knew each other, you coming in, everyone's like, hey, this is the big GM. The big GM is here. So I feel like it's just like, okay. But then when you start talking to friendly, normal guy, but it's that preconceived hierarchical differences that it's a really good effort for you to get to know people on a personal level and get friendly, and then people are more relaxed and they know your style, they know how you work, and that's your management style. I'm guessing you prefer to be more transformational than...
Yeah, that's a very good question. Congratulations. Yeah, that's a very good question. Yes, it's my natural style is more on the transformational one, but I also know when to be transactional. Yeah. And there are moments in business when you have to say, well, look, this is what I expect, right?
Yeah.
If you do that, we're fine. If you don't, we're not, right? So it's
a balance, I think.
It is a balance, absolutely. But also it's a hard effort for me sometimes to be transactional. I'd rather be the nice guy inspiring the people, instead of being the one just making sure, you have to do this and that. I don't like that. But, in a 5-star hotel, you cannot just inspire. You have to make sure that everything works like clockwork.
Yeah. I think it's the nature of the role. Like, no one likes... There's bad news, but I don't like being the delivery person of the bad news, because they will associate that news with the person that told them. But when you're in that position and you have to make transactional, like, hey, you have to do this, like, or you didn't do this right. I think it's I think you mentioned radical candor, which is important, because when you deliberately...
You have done your homework. Yes. I'm so impressed.
I think it's more like a learning for me. This podcast, just on the side note, that's why I get to learn about you, what you write, and like, it helps me as well grow. But I think I don't know how to do this yet, because my personality is, when I have on my mind, I just say it.
Yeah.
But sometimes the honest feedback hurts. But I do it as a position of love, and like, I want you to be the best you can.
Yeah.
But I think it's an art to say it in a way that person still leaves feeling good, but
Mhm.
then they've learnt their lesson, which is, I think you touched on with radical candor.
Yeah, radical candor is critical, I think.
Yeah.
But of course, when you're the delivery person of the bad news, you have to make sure that there is benevolence behind it, right? So criticism is always an investment in people, right? If I tell you this was not good, then you have to understand I'm doing it because I want you to be successful. Yeah. And the benevolence and the directness, that is crucial, right? Because I could be benevolent and talk about it behind your back, and it wouldn't help you.
Yeah, true.
And I could be an ass also saying, well, you know what Brandon did, it wasn't good. That wouldn't help you either. So I think it's very important that managers or leaders tend towards this direct and benevolent feedback. And sometimes it's hurtful, right?
Yeah,
Sometimes
for sure.
you have to tell people, look, you're dead wrong, right? Or this is not going to work. Or you do always this and this and this, right? And that's not good, right?
Yeah.
But you have to tell them first. You have to tell people that you want them to be successful. Yeah. I remember in Chicago, I had a training manager. Her name is Joyce. She told me, I got one written warning, right?
Okay. Yeah.
My bank was short $50.
Yeah.
You know why? I accepted a fake dollar
fake
note.
dollar.
Yeah, $50. Okay. And she said, that's the standards. If your bank is short, you get a written warning, right? But Philzy, I still love you. Right? That's what she said. I still remember. It was 25 years ago, right?
Yeah.
And that was my written warning.
Yeah.
And I always think about it. Even if you have to break bad news, you have to tell the people that you care for them.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
There comes a point where you don't.
Yeah, there comes a point you don't. I do like that. I like the nickname Philzy as well, actually.
Philzy. Either Philzy or Uncle Phil.
Uncle Phil or Philzy.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. No, it's interesting. I think the person has to be in a mature level to receive the feedback. Like, is that sort of out of your control? Like, I feel like sometimes it's out of your control. Like, you want the best for someone, but if they're not in a position to accept it, what else can you do? You've done the best you can. Sometimes you just have to wipe your hands clean and be like, okay.
That happens, yeah.
Yeah, I was going to say that would happen.
If you're facing a person who is very defensive by nature, then, there's just so much that you can do, right? You cannot shake their heads and say, I want you to, I want everything good for you, etc. So if that is opaque, then there's just limited possibilities, I think.
No, agreed. I think you had a quote, when you have to fire someone, it's a failure on both ends. And I thought that was curious.
Where did you find that?
Would have been in one of the Forbes articles or...
Yeah, possibly.
I'll find it. I've got the notes somewhere.
Yeah.
But
if you fire someone, sometimes you have to fire someone, but that just means that there was a misfit, right? That doesn't mean that the person is bad.
No,
right?
for sure not.
It's just a misfit between your expectations or the organizational strategic alignment, right? Sometimes you have to look, what is the purpose of your company? What are the strategies that you want to fulfill? And then also, what is the architecture of the team? Sometimes you have people that are just not in the right position, right?
Yeah.
I like when you look at the Formula One cars coming into the pit stop, and when they get their new wheels screwed on and the gas filled and the things wiped and all that stuff, right? You have to have the most competent person for that specific position. Otherwise, you lose nanoseconds and you might lose the race, right? And in an organization, it's exactly the same, right? So if you have a misfit between position or expectations of and purpose of the position and the person, then either you have to put that person somewhere else, or you have to do other things.
Yeah, and I think that goes back to the transactional side of management. You have to make these tough decisions. You're not in that position to have the Dolce Vita life in a manager-leader position. I think a good leader makes the tough calls as well. Yeah. And
sometimes at the worst moments.
Sometimes at the worst moments. Like at the stage of the company that you have to make the worst moments, or
Well, for the person that you have to let go, that becomes the worst moment,
correct?
right? Or also when you think you're in a dead end, you're not letting anyone go just because you wake up in the morning and say, okay, I'm going to let someone go today, right?
Yeah.
Pure pleasure. It doesn't work. It means that you have gone down a road and it has become hurtful, right?
Or detrimental.
Or detrimental, and that is a bad moment.
Okay. Yeah, no, it makes sense. Like, I didn't think of it like that. When you're getting rid of the person, they could have family, kids, providing food on the table. Like, it's not is that the worst moment of that time someone being told that? Because they think it's a failure, that they've failed, or they're a failure.
I think it's a leadership failure as well.
Okay.
Is that you might have recruited the wrong person, or that you yourself as the leader are not capable of finding the capital of that person. Or
the potential of that person.
Exactly.
Yeah, that makes sense. That I agree with that, because I feel like it's easier to not blame external circumstances, like saying that person wasn't good enough. It's easier for me to be like, okay, what did I do wrong, or take full responsibility.
Well, few people do that.
Yeah, but I think it's like, as a manager, you'd be like, okay, as you exactly said, that person might not be great there, but they would be amazing there. So just shift it there, or do that type of role, and then another person does the other role. So yeah. Did you get into consulting? Yeah. Okay. Was that like while you were doing the hotel, or was that just like a period where you were just doing that on the side, or?
I was doing that 2 years ago.
Okay.
Right, for a year and a half or so, and that was while I was writing my doctoral thesis. I had to put it on the side because I got this job.
Yeah.
But I was consulting with CEOs of companies or lawyers, pension fund people, other hoteliers.
Yeah.
And just getting the outside view. And being in hospitality, you're almost in every other aspect of any business, right?
Yeah,
so
you see it all.
So you can put hospitality into any business, right? And having a hotelier come and consult a banker, for example, that gives a little additional edge, I think.
Yeah. What did you learn from that experience? I know I can see you still doing it now in the future, but like, what did you learn from these people? Like, what are their main issues? What their problems? Like, what did you learn? How did they overcome it? What advice do you give them? It's a very broad question, but it's whatever comes to your mind.
It's a huge question.
Yeah.
There are few, just top of my head.
Yeah.
People make strategies work. Right, no boss is alone. He always has to, or she always has to rely on people. Culture is a big thing, right? How do you work together? So if you look at this alignment theory again, where you say, okay, this is the purpose that you have. What is the strategy to accomplish that purpose? What are the capabilities that you need to have, and what is the architecture of the company? You also have to think about how do you do it, right? And that's when the culture comes in. And few people really give enough attention to culture, right? So that is something that I always saw. Expectations that are not pronounced correctly. I also think that ego is the big thing, right? Where that holds people back. And also the attachment to the destination. So everybody wants to be somewhere, right? And that gives a lot of stress instead of being able to look at the little steps of a ladder, saying, okay, now we are here. We come from there and we are here and we go there, right? Breaking it down is much is an essential part to achieve something else. Because if you look at only your vision and you say, I want to reach that, right? Of course, that's important, but sometimes it can paralyze you.
Yeah.
And I have that here too, right? I have the vision of the hotel very clearly in my mind.
Yeah.
I haven't pronounced it officially yet to everybody.
Good idea.
To a few people, yes. But sometimes I catch myself also getting frustrated because we're not there yet. So it's this destination paralysis or wanting to be there that paralyzes me. But sometimes you just have to step back and zoom out and think, well, where do we come from? What have we accomplished already? And it's always the small changes that gives you strength, right? On which you can build.
Yeah.
So, and that I see everywhere. It's not only here. It's you can see it in any organization. And looking at an organization from an alignment point of view is you always see, okay, well, they haven't formalized their purpose properly, or is the strategy in line with the purpose, or do they have the right people, right? Sometimes you say, well, you have to get the wrong people off the bus and the right people on the bus, right?
Yeah, exactly.
And then if you tweak it here, you say in the right seat, right? It's the Formula One guy putting the gas, right? It's the right seat. But you have to define also which bus.
Yeah, which bus you want to go on.
You know? Yeah. So, and that is the purpose part.
Yeah.
Is where do you want to go? And so it's always tricky for a leader to step back and to see, okay, where are we now?
Yeah. I like that you mentioned ego.
Mm.
Do you think that is I don't know, one of the questions that I sent you, one of the biggest things that holds someone back from like their potential, like one aspect?
Yeah. Oh, definitely.
Yeah.
I remember it was in Jakarta. I had a sous chef. His name is Gavin Russell. And he told me the biggest compliment he could ever make is, he said, you have no ego. And that was just, thank God, because I always think that people should leave their ego at the door. Yeah, it's always about the person in front of you. It's not about you, right? For us, it's about the guest, and it's about the employees giving the experience. It's not about me. Right. And when you say, well, he's a big GM, blah, 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 that means that we got something wrong. That means that we are a boss focused organization instead of customer, guest focused organization. So we need to shift that paradigm.
For sure. Right? Yeah. No, I think it's something you have to train your ego. I remember when I was playing soccer, I loved being captain. Like I felt like I was a natural leader. People said it, but then I just loved that aspect of like, I'm leading my team out to war, to win. Mm-hmm. And I think that was a part, like I loved the role, and I think it was also a part of ego because you were
because you had the
armband here.
Yeah.
You lost, you take the responsibility. You won, you take the responsibility. Mm-hmm. So it's a team game. But then that's not how leaders use their position for ego. And then there's leaders that actually just lead. And I think they're the way to go. Leaders that you don't hear much about them, but they're just leading. People just follow them, and they're not using their position for misdemeanors or like I look at a lot of leaders now and I think, are they really a good leader, or is it because their power of position that gives them that responsibility?
Two things come to my mind listening just to you is a quote of Christine Lagarde.
Okay.
Just very recently. Yeah. I actually congratulated her on that quote. I said, well done. Yeah. She said the world would be a better place if there was less ego and less testosterone.
Yeah.
Right. And I just thought that's brilliant. Right. Yeah. And just it's always about the team.
Yeah,
right?
Correct.
And I really try to make our team leaders here in the hotel understand that I will judge them based on their team performance, not about them, how good they look.
Exactly.
Because they will look badly if their team performs badly, right? And they will look great if their team is great. That's all that matters.
It's true. Because like for this hotel, you always have like testers come in, like you have strict LQA standards. I know we had feedback recently, and like at the end of the day, it's the numbers on the board. Like that team, how did they go? What percentage they got? And that's the best feedback for you as well. So
that is very transactional, by the way.
That is very that is very trans. But I think you need both, as you said. Yeah, like at the end of the day, results matter. Like I understand the transformational side, but if you lose your 5-star hotel, then that's the result. You've done something wrong. Like at the end of the day, you can say, hey, we've got a great culture, we're having a great time, we're having so much fun.
Mm-hmm.
Hotel's falling apart.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you need both. And it's, as you said, it's a fine balance of...
I would argue that if you have a great culture, the hotel will be great.
True. Yeah. It's true.
It will not fall apart.
I don't know if you know the sport cricket at the moment. I don't know.
Yes.
Yeah. So it's the Ashes at the moment. Australia playing England, and Australia winning 2-1. And England and Australia have a great rivalry. I always say the Poms are sooks, and they say Australia use it as convicts.
Yeah.
Come from, So they're saying at the moment, and it's funny that our style of play is amazing. Like we've invented this new style. It's called the Basel, and it's entertaining. We're not worried about winning. Like it's just so great. We're getting people involved in the sport, and we're saying, yeah, but you're losing 2-1 at the end of the day. You've lost the tournament. Like you're losing. So it's like it's that balance that some can go so fixated on the journey, which is important also. But then at the end of the day, like in a competition sport, win or lose, no one remembers second place, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Like it's the journey, but also you're there to win, and you want to be, I think you should strive to be the best ethically. But do you, like for the hotel, like I think Basel, it's the only 5-star hotel in Basel. So you have that standard and you want to be the best. And I think it's a good goal to have. But it's just, I just thought of that straight away because it's just funny that, it's the difference of opinions and difference of how people think of companies and sports. And it's I do laugh about that recently because I love sports. I love football and leader. Like I go for Liverpool, and I know you did the online course at University of Liverpool.
I still am doing.
You still are.
Yes.
Have you ever been there?
No.
It's pretty fun. It's a cool city. I don't know if you're interested in football, but it's a special city, and our captain just got sold to Saudi Arabia, big money. So, but he was been there for like 12 years. So. And to me, like that's another style of leadership. He was always just he's like Roger Federer. Never any issues or scandals in the news. Just like class act. And I was like, to me, that's like a nice leader to aspire to. Like he was not the best player, definitely wasn't the star player of the team, but he just put his heart on this. He wore his heart on the sleeve and just led and was always. Never met him, but from afar, you just, as the same with Federer, you just feel that energy of someone that you're like, okay, that's a person you'd like to strive to become.
See, charisma is one of the parts of transformational leadership.
Yeah.
And they are charismatic.
They're charismatic.
You would go through hell for them.
Exactly,
right?
yeah.
And just like you said, no drama, right?
Yeah.
What a wonderful person.
Oh. Like if I think of like stories that I've had, I've been full of drama, but I'm like, these people, like just no scandals, and like that takes a lot of effort.
Just good people.
Just good people, well intentioned.
Does it take a lot of effort, do you think?
No, you have to learn from your mistakes. Yeah. But I think it's a lot of little factors, how they grow up. I think how they're parented. I think that's really important. How the character he had, his environment, the people around him. It was a lot of little steps that made him that person. But I think it takes effort and self-control because you know what's right and wrong.
Yeah.
So there's been times when I knew what was wrong and I did it. And so that's a mistake. But you learn from it. So I think I do give them credit for how they become who they are.
Do you think they need a sounding board also to keep them grounded?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. Someone to tell them. Like, I think maybe his wife does that.
Yeah. Yes, they always have a lot of power.
The power of women. I know that there was the quote she said, less testosterone.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's true.
Smaller egos.
Smaller egos, yeah. No, I think, have a sounding board of someone to like, my dad, give me a clip across the ears. Like you say, pull your head in. That helps. Puts you on the right path. Yeah, I think your environment is important and what friends you have.
Yeah. Surround yourself with the good friends.
Yeah, exactly, yeah.
And the ones who are honest with you, right? Yeah,
it's true. There's a lot of people that can just like boost your ego and tell you you're great, but as you said, behind their back, not so much. Yeah,
my fiance tells me, gives me that grounding sometimes.
Yeah.
She said, well, no, just come down.
Well, I think as men we need that.
Yeah.
Like, I think it's important to have like a strong partner just to like pull your head in a bit because if you're really ambitious or you want to do this, or you think you can do this, and you're like, okay, like should you be doing that, or is that ethical, or is that? Yeah, I think it's really important who you have around. I think that dictates
Yeah. And it's good. Sometimes you feel it yourself and you think, oh God, I'm becoming an idiot.
Yeah.
And to have someone tell you, like, oh, we're growing, you're getting distant, right?
Yeah.
Or you're in your own little bubble now, and you say, well, yeah, I am in my own little bubble now, and I'm trying to get out, right?
Yeah.
And this is, if you, for example, if you're managing a hotel like this, right,
Yeah.
you are in that bubble. You're
For sure.
always
Yeah.
concentrated on that, and then it's hard sometimes to get out, right? And to think, okay, there is life around it, right?
Yeah.
And that is sometimes very hard, but you need to have that person to tell you, hey,
Yeah.
come here.
Okay.
And yeah, back to Roger Federer, I think that is a prime example of great leadership, of great personality. And yeah, I think the world lacks a little bit of Federers. There should be more.
There should be more Federers. Yeah.
Mm.
Just lost the thought, but you were saying actually there was one thing, yeah, because the hotel industry for you, you've been in that for such a long time. It is a 7, as you said, it's a bubble. Like it's a 7-day a week. Like we're on Friday now, but hotel's busy tomorrow, hotel's busy Sunday, Swiss National Day on Monday.
Mm-hmm.
Like, how do you break away from that? Like, how is your balance? And this will lead to also self-awareness, emotional intelligence that we'll touch on, which I know that you're really interested in. But yeah, like how do you break away from that?
Currently, I don't.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's no. Currently, I hardly get away from it. It's always on your mind because you want the best for the hotel. You want the best for the people. Your thoughts always gravitate about what can you do differently, what have you done wrong, what should you change, etc. So it's very, very hard to get away. But if I remember my time in St. Moritz or in Zermatt, there are the times that will be better again, right? When you say, okay, I have time for myself now, for my self-reflection, for education, for family, etc.
Yeah.
I know that will come, right? But it takes a little time.
Yeah.
And when you're talking about emotional intelligence, you have to know yourself first, right? So that you can modulate your reactions and influence your results. But also, you have to know yourself first in order to understand the team dynamics, right? You have to understand that what triggers you might trigger other people too, right? And what are the consequences of those triggers? So if you don't know that, it's impossible to know how to lead a team.
Yeah. Okay. I think if you enjoy what you do you really have to escape? Like, do you have to have a break? So, for example, the hotel, it's consumed you. But, for example, like Federer, I think anything in life, like a monumental achievement that you have to make, there's sacrifices.
Yeah.
There's always a cost to when you do something. And I think if you're such dedicated to the sport, he wouldn't see family. Like his family travel with him now, but like to me, family is important. And I think in this industry, it'd be tough to manage both. Like it'd be hard to sacrifice. You'd have to make some sacrifices, and you'd know more than me, being in this industry so long, that there's had to be sacrifices that you made to get to where you are. And like, I guess it comes back to self-awareness. How do you deal with that? And do you sometimes pull back and be like, okay, did I make this decision right? I'm in this great position, but have I sacrificed enough, or have I made too many sacrifices to get there?
There have been a lot of sacrifice here.
Yeah.
A lot. It's you don't get there just by luck.
For sure.
Luck is part, and serendipity is part, but it's hard work.
Yeah.
Right? And a lot of education, a lot of self-reflections, a lot of humility that you need also, right? So you don't take advantage of your position. There is sacrifice a lot, and of course, family time. I mean, I don't have kids.
Yeah.
It's perhaps the moment in life will come when I'll regret it. I don't hope, but and I rather hope that everything makes sense at the end, right? But yeah, it's a lot of sacrifice.
Yeah.
But when you say do you really have to pull back, or is it not integral part of your life? Yes, I think so too. Because when you talk about work-life balance, you always think about these antagonistic forces where you work and then you enjoy, right?
Yeah.
But why don't you enjoy your work?
Exactly. Yeah.
Right. So
Yeah.
I have both.
Yeah.
Right? So it is integrated.
Yeah.
I like my job. I love my job.
Yeah.
But sometimes it's very consuming.
Exactly. Like you can love your job, but like it's not every day you're gonna wake up and like, oh, let's hit it. Like let's go. It's the grind, and like it's the some days you're gonna be like, geez, I don't want to get up this morning. I don't want to go to the gym.
Yeah.
But you go because you know after it feels good. Like it's like for work, I guess. Not every day you're gonna be enthusiastic.
It's a question of grit.
Grit, yeah.
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 Grit. Where you say, okay, come on, guys.
I think that's an important trait to have in a person, grit. And like just not giving up.
Yeah.
I think that you can train. I think anyone can have that.
Yeah.
Like there's natural traits where you can either be more extroverted or introverted, but that one I think there's no excuses. Someone can train to have grit. Yeah.
Yeah, my father was instrumental in that. He was, allez gamin, do your homework. Do your homework.
Yeah.
Right? And he kept saying that. I will never forget.
Yeah.
Or the Sunday mornings when my sister, he and I were having breakfast always, and he always had these A3 pieces of paper, right? And regardless of the Sunday, there was always something that he wanted to teach us, right? So he took his crayon and or his pencil and a piece of paper, and he explained something. It was mostly scientific, and we were no, not again.
On a Sunday.
But that or a napkin.
Or a napkin.
So, yeah.
That's good. I think.
But you know, I think it's interesting how that shaped me also. Is he always shared knowledge.
Yeah.
And I think this is important, and perhaps it's also a reason why we are having this discussion here.
For sure, yeah.
Is how can you become a multiplier, right? Do you withhold knowledge in order to construct some pseudo power?
Yeah.
Or do you share knowledge? Right, in order to make everybody successful, right? So we are having this discussion now. I'm telling you what I know. We're talking about radical candor, about emotional intelligence, blah 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 blah. Right? Yeah. I still have that knowledge. Now you have it knowledge.
Exactly. Yeah.
And through the network, there will be millions of people having the knowledge.
Yeah.
So that's really cool.
No, I think it's cool, and I think it's selfish holding in what you know. You only live once, so like. And I think the energy that you give out to the universe, positive information, you get it back. Like it comes back in other ways that you wouldn't know. And I think it's just, I think people want to learn. They want to learn new things and like grow. Like it's a part of us. We're not meant to be, it's evolutionary. We change as a species. Like we're meant to change and meant to grow. And I think this is a great platform for this.
Is that the reason why you're doing the podcast?
To learn and grow.
Yeah, and to share.
And to share, yeah. So I want to go on a certain journey, and we're lucky that we have this technology to do this. Like, for example, I think it'd be fascinating. My nonno come on a boat from Italy to Australia, like in 3 months. I was like, imagine if you had like a video of that journey, like telling your parents that I'm getting up, I'm never coming back to Italy, I'm going to Australia. Like, you could document the journey. Like, he always tells every time I'd go there every Wednesday with my sister when we could for dinner. He's still alive, but like. And he would just start talking about stories, like bombings of the World War II at the end. Like there was a bridge that just collapsed in front of me. And I'm just like, imagine if you could just document that journey of like how we got to this, and this. And I was like, this is the same for me. Like I wouldn't say I'm where I want to be. Like, you know, you got end goal, but as you said, you have the steps. And I was like, this is a cool documentation process. And plus, like I get to sit down with amazing people like yourself. Like if we're at work, this platform allows us to have a deep conversation and deep personal connection that I wouldn't get to do otherwise. I wouldn't. We'll say, hey, how you going? You at the canteen?
Exactly.
You know, it's a surface level, and like I like surface level conversations. Like I'm outgoing, but I just like to get to know someone, like how they work, like what makes them tick, and then if I learn something, it's great. I'm improving myself, but then also like someone else can listen to this if they want and learn.
Yeah,
I think it's my why. I think for this podcast, it's my why. I like meeting people.
Mm-hmm.
I like learning from people. And if I can try and give back with value, I will try and do the same. And I think through people listening, hopefully that's the journey. Yeah. So I think it's my why. I think you like Simon Sinek.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sure. Yeah.
I like him as well. And I think he got it right with
he's a guru. Yeah.
Yeah. He's the cream of the crop. And he always says you have to start with your why you do something. And yeah, I think it's kind of the why. I want to document the process and see what happens. And
you do it by listening.
Yeah.
And you listen to connect, right? You're not listening to answer.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, thank you. I try and be a good listener.
Mm-hmm.
I never want to be like a journalist or interviewer, but I just like to have a conversation, a talk, like figure out what you do, how you do it. And then if you ask me a question, whatever comes to my head, I'll say whatever. I've read books and just have fun. Like Australian culture growing up, we're just larrikins. Like we just like to have fun, easygoing. And I like that. I like to keep that culture to bring it to Switzerland, but then I also like the learning of the Swiss culture, how it's very direct and functioning. And I think it's a nice mix. And you grew up in a totally different culture to I did.
Mm-hmm.
And then when you come together and you bounce off ideas and how people think, I think it's great. The diversity is great. I had that this interview, and I won't say too much, but the question was, what do you think of diversity and how do you deal with diversity? And to me, I don't think it's a great question, because to me it's common sense that it doesn't matter where someone comes from or what they do. You just treat them as face value and you learn from them. Like to me, diversity, we're all diverse. Yeah. You know, videographer comes from Luxembourg, you're from Belgium, I'm from Australia. Like it's natural. The world is diverse and you just embrace that. Right. So a lot of things to me, common sense, but it's hard. Yeah.
I like that topic too, the diversity. It's not only geographic or racial diversity or gender diversity. I also think it's a question of diversity of thought, because we could be both from Australia and have completely different opinions.
Exactly.
Right? We are white men.
Yeah.
We could come from the same origin, right? But we could think totally differently, right? Yeah. So I like to factor that in also, is to have people who think differently. We have now a few new employees here at the hotel who think differently. And I think it's so refreshing.
Yeah, it's great.
Yeah, because it's enriching, right? If everybody says the same things, right, and agree with you all the time, you're not moving on forward.
No. It's, diversity is pretty much, as you said, just different thought.
Yeah.
You could have a family, you and your sister, I'm sure you aren't the same.
Completely different.
You had the exact same upbringing, exact same journey, but you're wired different.
Yeah.
So it's like that. To me, that's diversity.
Absolutely. Yeah. And she gets into those discussions of ethics, right? I mean, she has a doctorate in bioethics, right? So who am I to talk about that stuff with her, right? I'm on a losing game there. But it's always interesting to see the opinions of others and to see how you react and how that can change you, right? And I love the saying also that the head is round so that the thinking can change directions.
Yeah, true.
Right?
Yeah.
And sometimes you just think, oh, well, yeah, you're right. I have to think differently. That doesn't mean that you're just agreeing with everything, right? And you're not making up your own mind. But I think this openness for something new is critical.
Yeah, agreed. And that's where you throw the ego out the door as well, when you're willing to say and change. Yeah.
You don't care anymore.
And I think, that's culturally now, like we had COVID, we had everything through that stages. And I think we weren't willing to see different opinions of like situations now. Like I think this is one topic that's a struggle. Like if you have, say, for example, American politics is so divisive. You're either one or the other.
Yeah.
They need to get to a change where can they find something in the middle, or be open to see there's a good part of that side and a good part of that side. I don't know if that'll ever happen in America, but you have the two diverse, different cultures. But I think it's an important step to grow as like human species, is be able to change and like question things, and your decision, you make your decision, but hey, is this wrong? And be accepting to be wrong. Like for example, in Melbourne and Victoria, like with COVID, we had the premier, and he just made the decisions, and there was no open for discussion.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, are we in a democracy or are we in a dictatorship? What's going on here? Like, couldn't leave your room after 9 p.m. Well, it was part of the reason I come to Basel, actually, in Switzerland, because they were more open to,
Mm-hmm.
it was more flexible, it was more personal. I liked personal responsibility. I think I keep going back to that. That Switzerland was like, okay, you can get vaccinated, you have your choice,
Mm-hmm.
be healthy, like all this, and promoting that. You get to decide how you want to live your life, but you should be considerate to others.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas Melbourne was, you do this, you lose your job. And I'm like, okay, well, I don't think that's the right answer. And so I think with decision making, you have to be open to change, as you said. I think it's important. And I think listening, and I think it comes with maturity, that you're willing to change opinions and listen to opposing views.
Yeah, I just listened to Noam Chomsky
Okay.
a few days ago, and he said that, well, he has very bad expectations actually for the future, looking at the media, right?
Mhm.
He says that the quality of a society depends on how the people in power decide, right?
Mhm.
And where you get your information from.
Yeah.
Right. So if you just think of TikTok and Facebook and whatever to get your information, you're living in a bubble.
Correct.
And they will feed you with all that stuff and reinforce your existing bias.
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
And that's very bad. And
It's dangerous.
It is dangerous.
Yeah. No, it is.
Sometimes just reading a newspaper, reading the New York Times. I was in New York in May, and just reading the New York Times was eye-opening again. Right, so of course it's a liberal newspaper, and
Yeah, it's a liberal
they have
state.
very interesting columns. And then you talk to some people over there with completely difficult, let's not use the F word, opinions, then you just grow impatient and you think, my God, how can I get out of this conversation? Because this is leading us nowhere.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
I just wanted to escape. Right? So, yeah.
No, I think that is an issue, media and what information you bring in.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's so easily to be manipulated now. Because like the money involved with like Facebook, TikTok, social, they're looking at what you see and they will tailor the information to you. And I don't know if did you follow Twitter with Elon Musk, how he's sort of changed the switch.
Yeah.
And he's got a lot of kickback, because before that Twitter was very government funded. It was like, hey, can you please release this? Can you not release this? And now he bought it and he goes, you can't be doing this. This is free speech. And I really applaud him for that, because he spent $45 billion to buy it just to say that we need to have free speech, right or wrongly. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, okay, so yeah, that's an interesting time for kids, especially kids and adults. And no, you said it spot on about social biases, and they just feed that, and then you're just clouded. I think books is the best way to get out of that, like an author.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I think so too.
Yeah, so it's hard to learn. I think kids nowadays, I don't even look at the news anymore. It's not like when I was younger, you'd have the paper, you'd read the paper, but now I don't watch TV.
You had 5 channels.
Yeah, it's you don't. I don't know. It's just it's manipulated.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
It's not the same trust that you had growing up, where you would watch the news and you believe that. I think people had more trust in the media when you were younger, and then now I was like, there's no trust. Like there's an agenda. There's a money behind it. There's a reason why you published that and then cut this part out and not included the whole interview. Mm-hmm. And
it's also because the news outlets, they don't have their journalists on site anymore, or fewer on site, right, who can objectively explain what is going on. Right. So back in the days, you had all those newspapers who had journalists sent there. Everything is just filtered and gathered somewhere and then
packaged and
exactly.
Does it accept
bite-sized?
Yeah,
because we don't have time anymore.
It's true. We've lost attention span. I think one thing I wanted to mention before we finish was tips on. I really liked your article on emotional intelligence and self-awareness, and you gave tips on how you helped improve your emotional intelligence and awareness, self-awareness. And I thought that would be, I learned a lot from that. I think a lot of people would learn a lot from that. So you had, for example, obviously time for health.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, yeah. And I liked your visualization and journaling.
Mm-hmm.
And then you had your vision board, which you stumped me on actually when we first spoke because I didn't have one at that stage.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, yeah, I really should have a vision board.
Mm-hmm. Journaling is very important, I think, because you have to do that cognitive process in the day when you think, okay, what happened today, right? So that a few years later you can still, okay, read again, because you change, your character changes. Sometimes you have to read again, okay, what happened then, right? And what happened when you were in that position? How did you decide in that situation, right? Would you decide differently now, right? I think that is just rewinding a bit helps you moving forward. The vision board is also, for me, it's important to have pictures, right? It's not just sentences. Perhaps you work with quotes or with texts or books, or if you say, well, you're interested in those books, right? For me, it's also the just abstract pictures that make a big image of the future, right? What do you see of yourself, of how you interact with people, how you want to lead your organization, etc., to have that in front of your eyes.
Yeah.
And that is part of the neuroplasticity.
Okay.
And that helps you with the emotional intelligence also. How does that tie in with the relationship that you have with others?
Yeah.
And also having the purpose, right? What are your core values and what is your purpose?
Yeah.
Right. So that is one of the interview questions that I always ask is, what is your purpose and what are your core values? Yeah. And if you see, it's kind of tricky, or they don't understand the question, or they give you values that aren't really values, right? That shows me that there's no clarity.
Yeah.
And if they have values, I can see, or if they have their defined values, then I can see how does that fit into the organization, right? If somebody says, I'm very precise, or I like precision, and I like teamwork, and I like honesty, then that person could be a good fit for an accounting team.
Okay, yeah, precision, yeah, numbers, precision. Yeah.
Precision and honesty. Okay, you're not cooking the books. You're saying you're to the 0.5 cents. You're precise, right?
Good with numbers.
And if somebody says, "Well, I like creativity, and I like freedom, and I like also teamwork," right? Teamwork comes always, right? And hospitality
you have to be.
That person could be a very good cook.
Yeah, right? True. Yeah, or in the bar making drinks.
Or a bar, exactly. Right. So that helps me to understand, okay, where is this person heading to?
Okay. Yeah.
What are your core values?
I think for me, honesty is important.
Mm-hmm.
Core values is, it's hard to, I live it, and then you have to think back and reflect, what are they? I like honesty. I like being with people. I think for a value to live by, I think I need to always be learning. Yeah, and stimulation.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's a value I try and think of a lot. Doing good by others. I think these are common sense or common traits that everyone should have, but it's not always the case. But yeah, value of trying to live your life like maybe I've read this, but like it's a movie, and like if someone's watching you, how do you? Yeah. What are you doing? So like, for example, you could get up in the morning and you're meant to go to the gym, but you're sleeping in. Like, I think, okay, what if someone was watching me right now? Yeah. You know, and then it's like triggers me to go, okay. So I like to live like that. But creating memories and being happy is important, but then realizing that I want struggle in my life. And I mean that as
why is that?
Mean that not in like I think because I want to grow and see how much I can squeeze out of my life and what I can achieve. We're only here for, say, 100 years average. So
average, okay.
You're optimistic. I'm trying to be optimistic. But so like, I think if your life is so cruisy and like easy. Like, what are you growing then? Like, I feel like the struggles make us grow. So I'm always trying to look for something like a bit ambitious. Like, how am I going to do that? Okay, I'm struggling right now. How can I grow? And then like you evolve, and then you look back and you're like, okay, that was a struggle, but now it's not. So I think I try and look for challenges
or adversity.
Yeah. Then you start you start creating adversity, which maybe is not the best thing, but like just different challenges. So I need to be stimulated with work is a value. Like I need to be challenged and I want to be around people. I think that's a value of mine. I need to provide not value, but like just have a nice energy when you meet someone. I think that's important. So I try to have those values in mind. Wishy-washy now coming off the top of my head. So I should go back and really define a sentence. But I think I just try to live my life honestly, have fun, and try not to take life so seriously. Yeah. That's an issue at the moment. Yeah.
You know, there is a nice exercise where you say, okay, define 10 values, right? 10 core values.
Yeah.
And then you write them down, and then you have to reduce them to 5.
Yeah, okay.
Right?
Yeah.
You have to cut those that are not so important, right? Where you can live without. And then you reduce it to a further 3, right? And then you're with really the ones that if you don't have that, then it's painful.
Yeah, right? You can't live without.
Exactly. That's when you say, no, this is not working for me. I'm getting out of this, or I stand up for someone. Right. And I had this conversation just recently with one of our new team members, right? I asked him, well, what are your core values? And he said fairness is very important, and honesty as well, and transparency. Yeah. And that helps me also how to interact with him. So I need to be transparent with him because I have to tell him what is on my mind. Yeah. Right? And had I not asked that, I could have assumed something different. Right? So I think it's very important to have your core values crystal clear and being able to communicate them, to tell them, well, look, this is really important for me. Yeah. Right? And for example, I was asked, well, what are my core values? And mine are freedom. I hate being told what to do. Right? I want to be free to be my own master, right?
Yes, I agree with that, yeah.
I love wisdom, right? Learning. So not just knowledge, just really wisdom, right? And if you're reading Marcus Aurelius, that's full of wisdom. If you're reading Simon Sinek, it's full of wisdom. If you're reading Noam Chomsky, it's full of wisdom, right? And that can shape you as a person as well. And the third is growth. And growth not in the material sense, but it's in the relationship sense, right? This podcast is growing our relationship. Yeah, for sure. Right? Or whatever we do, there must be this component of improvement, this little delta, right? Yeah. Another kind of behavior that we have resulting from an interaction, right? That is what I see with growth. Yeah. This can be growth in beauty, growth in elegance, growth in fun, growth in whatever, right?
So they're good values and they're broad as well, so they can branch off. But then you think, everyone should have those type of values. Like freedom is, I have the same opinion. I don't know why, I just don't love getting told what to do.
Yeah. Some other people need that, need to have a structure, right? Need to be boxed in, right? They don't like freedom because it's unsettling for them. And
discipline and structure, routine. Yeah.
Exactly. And I feel my security in my freedom. Okay. Is being able to walk away, right? And to say no, right? And that is, and having enough of everything to have some security. But yeah, don't make me do things that I don't want to do. Yeah. Perhaps you've seen that already. Here.
No, I haven't. I actually haven't. We don't see each other a lot, but no, I haven't seen that. But no, I resonate with that wisdom. Do you think everyone should strive to have those values? Not so much the freedom ones, because not everyone has that, but in terms of like wisdom and growth.
Not necessarily. Who am I to tell? everybody should be clear about their core values. Some people would say, well, it's creativity. They want to create things, right? And that is something that is important. Or fairness, right? Who will stand up for other people if their rights are not respected or whatever.
But you would do that as well.
Sure.
It's like your value of growth. Like, to me, growth, being a good person, that falls under being fair, honest, direct.
That's very smart.
Yes. You know, like, to me, like, I have trouble with people telling me, like, I like these values and I think you need to have directness, but a lot of it just falls under the same cloud or same umbrella of being a good person.
Yeah.
Like, these are common, like, good traits that someone should strive to have.
Mm-hmm.
But then I guess, yeah.
But if it's broad, it doesn't need to be specific, right? It can be when the critical or the defining moments arise. That's when you ask yourself, well, where does it tie into my core values?
Core value, yeah. Okay. Or your why or your purpose.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Now I will learn to I think I need to be more precise and articulate with the exact words to. Yeah. Okay. No, before we finish up, it's been a great chat. What is your, like, why? And we don't have to talk about hotel, like, just in general, like, what gets you up in the morning? Like,
what gets me up in the morning is to contribute and to develop others, right? Is this multiplying factor, to be a multiplicator.
Yeah.
Or multiplier.
Yeah.
Being a hotelier, right, is very one-dimensional, right? You look at a hotel, you give shelter and you give food and you discipline people. But at the end, this is totally irrelevant. It's a lovely platform, yes, but the purpose is much higher, right? So you have to be able to inspire some people to outgrow themselves. And this is something that that is what makes me get up in the morning. What can I do today that people will remember that I might not remember, right? So I had a conversation recently with a former colleague of mine, and she told me exactly this and this and this. I totally forgot about that. I didn't know. But it was important for her at that moment in time.
Yeah. To have that little positive effect on someone that ripples through. Yeah.
What's
my why? I would like to also, it's similar, I would like to also positively impact a lot of people and make them not better, it's not the best word, but improve their lives by being around me, having a positive impact. I think I would like to do that, and I would like to help men and women, or men, like, on their journey of life. Like, I think we have a lot of distractions right now. I'm still figuring it out myself. Like, a lot of distractions, a lot of opportunities, and I'd like to positively try and impact as much people as I can and leave a mark, leave something that you could remember. Yeah, I think that's what I want to do, for sure.
Is that on your tombstone test? It's
not on my tombstone test. I have one main goal that I haven't told anyone, and I have. It's funny you said Marcus Aurelius, or Latin. There's a nice saying, memento mori. It's like, it means that you're going to die.
Yeah.
And I have this nice coin. I think you would like it. I'll show you it. I have this nice coin where I see it every day, and it reminds you that's like, one day you're going to die. So what can you leave, or how can you improve society? Like that, everyone can interpret it differently, but so I think of, like, how can I try and leave something or help someone?
Make every moment count.
Yeah, like, try and it puts a perception on time that's like, you're here for such a finite amount of time. How can you positively impact someone? How can you help people? I think we're human beings, we're sapiens, we're meant to be together. We're not meant to be alone. So I think I would like to go on my journey, have a family, make all that, but also in the meantime, try and impact as many people as I can and enjoy life, like, have fun. Yeah.
How wonderful is that?
Yeah. So
congratulations.
It's I haven't achieved, like, yet, but it's on the journey. It's in your mind. So I think, as you said, neuroplasticity, it helps you get there. So I think that's why I do this. It's why I do this podcast. And I'm just fascinated by people. Like, it's fun. Like, you don't we're so on social media, you get to see someone, but like in person is the best. Like we have like artificial intelligence. I know now, like you got all these like technologies now that will take away. It will take away a lot of jobs, but one thing that will never go is like human connection.
Yeah.
Like you'll never lose that. You'll never lose that feeling that you have when you meet someone that you're like, geez, that guy, like, he made me like stand up taller. He made me like feel good. What a nice compliment. Like you'll never lose that forever. So it's like something that I want to hold on to and explore more. And this is great platform. Luckily, someone invented podcasts, so you can do this. You can sit down with someone. And
Absolutely.
yeah. No, thank you. I'm happy. I'm happy to wrap it up.